trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
Took my love, took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in snow-covered hills, till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too. Take my love, take it down. Climb a mountain and turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills,
sitting in the morning sun. I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change, everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Yes, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
The sun in his jealous sky as we walk in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while upon the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley? We'll forget the sun in his jealous sky as we lie in fields of gold.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for gathering with us as we celebrate the life of Gregory James Bartley. I'd like to welcome this afternoon. Greg was born in Portland on June 17th, 1968, and graduated right here from Gresham High School in 1986. He attended the University of Oregon with a degree in journalism and was a member of the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity. He graduated in 1991. And over the years, he worked in sales and advertising. He even had the opportunity to work in the White House in Washington, D.C. to replace antique hardware in the interior. That sounds fun, actually, and interesting. Greg participated in kendo, the Japanese sword fighting sport, and had a passion for riding. He was a lifelong fan of the Oregon Ducks and he enjoyed camping, going to the beach, and spending time with his kids, who we will hear from here in a short period of time. On behalf of Greg's family, thank you for being here. My education and my experience says that I'm trained for moments like these, and the truth is, anytime we face big questions and look for big answers, we can't always necessarily find them. And so I humbly stand before you, and I admit that I have a lot more questions than I do answers. And this afternoon, we just want to know and express and realize that there aren't a lot of answers to some of the questions that we have. And I do know this for certain. I know it was never God's plan for kids to lose parents like this and at this stage. It was supposed to be the other way around, right? Death, even in the best of circumstances, can be difficult because nature has its seasons, and death can come to any one of us at any time and in any place. And we face that reality this afternoon in ways that we don't normally do. And for none of us, we truly know what tomorrow will bring. And so we gather here this afternoon. And I just want to set the stage and what we want to accomplish and what we want to try to do. And that's really, as we gather today with sorrow in our hearts, questions on our minds, and truly a peace, too, that goes beyond any understanding. By the time we're done here, I hope that we'll be able to pay tribute and respect to Greg, the one so many of you loved. And so, in reality, I tell people, no one can preach their funerals. Nobody can do that. We preach our funerals while we live. And so today, I hope we can laugh, maybe even cry, share some stories, and truly strive to enjoy. And so I hope, too, that we can comfort Greg's family, especially Zach and Haley. That's my hope. That's my prayer this afternoon. Your strength, your presence, is an incredible source of strength, and thank you. Thank you for being here. I know that the family can feel your sympathy, your kindness, your thoughts, and your care, and it's very meaningful. We'll also accept Greg's death as a reminder to us. Honestly, funerals remind us that death is probably closer to us than we realize and acknowledge, and honestly, funerals force us to reflect on what life's true values really are. And I hope to share some things with you here towards the end that will be a help and an encouragement to all of us. But really, I hope that we can enjoy one another and we can share some stories that Greg probably would never want us to share, but probably really good to share this afternoon. Maybe you guys will learn some things about your dad you didn't know, right? That could be scary and good. And so what I want to do is I want to pass the microphone over to Haley first, and then Zach as they share about their dad.
Hello. Alrighty. Ooh, hi. Yeah, I'll project too. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Haley, and I'm Greg's daughter, though I'm sure most of you know that. Truth be told, I've never had to write a eulogy before, but because this is my time to speak, I'm going to make this honesty hour. I would rather share the good memories I have with my father. We had a very complicated relationship, but thankfully, we'd reached a peace in this last year, which I'm very grateful for. Even right now, this all feels like some sort of elaborate prank. It's not out of the realm of possibility when I consider who he is. He'll walk out from behind a door, grinning with his hands spread like so. And that would be the reality we live within. I can't imagine a world where Greg Bartley isn't around. Like I said before, I'm eternally grateful to say that over the course of the last year, my relationship I had with my dad became the best it had ever been, and unfortunately ever will be. As I grew up, we had something of a turbulent relationship. In my angsty teen years, we butted heads like no other. We bickered and argued like your typical father and teenage daughter duo would. The greatest enemies the world had ever seen. But we were never actually enemies. We were just two individuals unable to clearly communicate with each other. But thankfully it got better. But sprinkled throughout my childhood, before life turned just a little bittersweet, is a constellation of memories I hold of my father's love for me. I find myself traveling in my mind to these memories, remembering the quiet depth of his care. It's like piecing together a painting of him, something to counterbalance the sudden absence of him in my life. One night when I was very young, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't have been more than 6 years old at the time, and I remember sitting on the couch in the bonus room of my childhood home in the wee hours of the night, watching old westerns with my dad. It was the black and white kind, maybe not the best production value, but still very entertaining to watch, especially for a 6-year-old. We didn't talk to each other at the time. We just sat there watching the actors in the kitschy, historical cowboy attire ride around on horses. I remember feeling a peace in that moment, a settled feeling in that quiet of the night. It was an anchor point I could think back to whenever I felt unease in my childhood and teenage years. He loved to take us places, whether it was to the beach, to Disney, or even Hawaii once. I watched him haggle a vendor over the price of a jeweled pineapple trinket, and I still have somewhere in storage in Hawaii. He was always the salesperson in search of a stellar deal. One summer, he took me and my brother to Blue Lake several times over the course of a month, and we swam under the mid-July sun. He loved to go camping at Lost Lake, and we did that often. But once me and my brother reached adulthood, those trips unfortunately slowed to a stop. The trip we took to Disneyland when I was 13, we rode the Indiana Jones ride, and he sat in the exit row seat. And I remember holding onto his arm, laughing as the ride car zipped and went around the curves. After the ride was over, he swore he and his phone almost flew right out of the ride. I don't know how true that was, but for being as young as I was like, oh my gosh, could have happened to me. Glad he was in the exit row seat. He loved Pirates of the Caribbean, and over the course of a few trips to Disney, we rode that ride together well over 15 times. And we could have gone more. We could have done more than 15 times, honestly. He loved doing the impression of a pirate, much to my ever enthusiastic amusement. Quick little side story, but this all started when we went to, it was either Seaside or Lincoln Beach. You could go there and you could rent those like 4-person bikes, pedal around town, really cause some good traffic issues down there. And he would pedal, he'd be in the front seat, pedaling away, and there was one time we saw a family with a wiener dog, and he saw that wiener dog, and for years after he first said it, he would say, "Dachshunds taste like chicken." Just I don't know why a pirate would say that, but he would say that, and he just said it for years after. I loved it, honestly. It was great. It was really funny. And if you saw that pirate hat out there, that's why it's there on the memory table. When I was 10, he took me horseback riding in Canada, and he fell off the horse before I ever got on it. But we got on the horse eventually, and we were able to go up the mountain, and it was a very good time. When I was learning to drive, he took me out once, and only once. When I hit the brake, literally my full foot slammed onto it, and I proceeded to give everyone in the car whiplash. I could see the regret and mild fear very clearly in his eyes. Yet he was ever the proud father when he took me to get my learner's permit, and when I picked up my driver's license from the DMV. But not before sending out a warning to the citizens of Gresham to watch out for the new driver on the road. He bought me my first car, a red 2003 Subaru Outback with racing stripes. Another year, sometime down the line, he took me and my brother to Long Beach for my 20th birthday. He drove the car down the beach, and I hung halfway out the window and laughed and laughed. He didn't have to, but he drove several times up and down that beach. And there I was, still hanging out the window, happy as a clam, feeling the sea breeze whip my face. Classic rock played from the radio, and that afternoon we ate so many oyster shooters. If you don't know what an oyster shooter is, you get a little shot glass, you take a raw oyster, you put it in the glass, a little bit of cocktail sauce, a little bit of lemon juice. There you go. It's great. Honestly, try it if you haven't. He's the only person I've ever known so far that doesn't turn up their nose to a good oyster shooter and actively seeks one out. As I grew up, he had many nicknames for me. A Hall of Fame for said nicknames included Buglet. I got very sick for a few days when I was 5 or 6 with a stomach bug. I was his Buglet after that. That became my first email address, buglet301@gmail.com, and my username in so many different things online. I may have recovered from that sickness, but I carry that name with me still. It had a lasting effect. He would also call me Haley Kane after the song Rock You Like a Hurricane by Scorpions. He would sing throughout my childhood, "Here I am, rock you like a Haley Kane, thank you, Portland," continuously throughout my childhood. It didn't amuse me at times. I would go, stop, I don't want to hear it. I look back on it fondly. And last but not least, Baber. I was his Baber. My dad was endlessly supportive of my creative outlets in life, particularly my writing. He always told me, every time he saw me, write for fun. A short play I wrote my senior year of high school got selected through the theater program to be performed by professional actors in Portland. To this very year, since my senior year 5 years ago, he would bring it up consistently as one of the best plays he'd ever seen and urged me to continue writing. He only ever wanted to see me succeed in the avenues I found enjoyment within. He called me his mini-me. In all honesty, in the times I saw my father for the very complicated man that he was, I loathed to hear it. I had all of this anger pent up inside me, directed towards him, towards the world. I didn't want to be compared to him, but I know there's a part of my soul so deeply similar to his. I am his daughter after all. We would laugh at a lot of the same jokes. We love writing, and we love to eat weird seafood delicacies. I wish he hadn't been so afraid. I wish my love for him could have been enough for him to choose to stay, to wait another day, see another sunrise. I wanted him to rediscover his love for life, find a hobby he loves so very much, a passion that could have reignited a will to live. It's hard to think of this time as a new chapter opening in my life without my father to be there. Whenever I would think of the future, I always pictured him seeing me graduate from college. Finally, I'll get there. Hear news of me finding a really cool writing job, see me get married, and eventually meet his grandchildren. But he won't be there. As much as I want him to burst out from behind a door with a camera crew and say, "I just got punked," he's not there. He's not anywhere. There's no more beach trips or lunch dates or Christmas mornings watching It's a Wonderful Life. He loved that movie. I wish he could have seen himself as George and realized just how many people truly loved him. There's a quote that's stuck with me, one that I've read a while ago, but comes to mind when I think about my dad. Now I have to remember you for longer than I have known you. I don't want to carry the weight of his absence for the rest of my life. It feels like 1,000,000 pounds. It's heavy, but I will carry it. I'll write for fun for him. I'll continue eating oyster shooters. And I'll talk to him out loud, and tell him all about my life events, even if I won't ever receive a reply back. Thank you so much for coming today. It means the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Haley. What I want to do is we get the opportunity just to share some stories and take a little bit of time here. And so I'd be happy to walk the microphone to you if you have something that you'd like to say or a memory you'd like to share, and then we'll move on from there. So it's a little tough act to follow, but we will do it. All right, we will make it happen. So, who wants to go? Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Shauna. I'm the baby of all the Vina's kids and Sherry's kids and Mom's kids. I'm the baby. And Vina's kids are a little bit older than Shelly and Greg and I. And so it was just us three, Shelly and Greg and I. And I was the baby, and Shelly and Greg would always gang up on me. I remember numerous times they would pants me in the swimming pool at Aunt Sherry's house. And I'll never forget, Greg taught us how to do illegal fireworks with his electrical tape and his bottle rockets. And Aunt Sherry would be like, now be careful. And just growing up with having him and my sister, I'll never forget how good of a human Greg is. I wish there was something we could have done to help him. He's Oregon Ducks' biggest fan, even though we are a Beaver household. And he would come sporting his duck stuff, and Dad would give him a hard time. You know, he would come to holidays, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Mom would send him home with leftovers. And pretty soon he started to bring his own leftover containers. And she'd load him up and he'd come bring back the next holiday. I remember when I met Dwayne in 2016, and he said, "Cousin, you'll always be my blood, but thanks for bringing me Dwayne." He said, "Dwayne and I are the best friends. We can talk, sit around in the motorhome, and we can talk about whatever." And he truly believed that Dwayne was brought into our lives with the passing of Aunt Sherry. That Dwayne, he would always tell me, "I love you, cousin, but I love Dwayne. Dwayne's my best friend. I love Dwayne." And it made me so happy that my husband could be such a big part of Greg's life and brighten his day. Dwayne would go out to the motorhome. "I'm going out to the farm." "Okay," and I would check with him in a couple hours. "How you guys doing?" "Oh, well, we're at the Big Apple, Red Apple," the place that has Chinese food and breakfast at the same time. I'd be like, "Okay, well, good thing you didn't invite me, because I didn't want," they would love that place. He would tell us at the Big Apple, the Red Apple, they would call and they'd be like, Hi, sir. You want your usual?" "Yep, I want my usual." So anyway, I just feel really bad that not only did we lose our wonderful cousin, I feel bad for my cousins, Haley and Zach, because he just had so much more to love and to give, and he's just gone too soon. So if I can fulfill some empty space that your dad had, please, we would love to do that, because we love you guys, And we're just so, so sad.
Well, I'm Auntie Vina, and I had lots of kids, and Greg used to come and stay with us and play and everything, and for some reason or other, and I don't know when it was, there was always a saying, and I remembered it from my schooling, and he always would say something or something, and he'd say, I can't do that, and I always told him, can't, never could do anything. And he remembered that. To this day, the last time I seen him, he said, remember when you told me can't, never could do anything? And I guess I just had it there and let him listen. But I will miss him. I am sad that he thought that he had to go. But I hope he's with my sister, his mom, and I hope that they are flying around with the other angels.
As you were speaking, I just thought of, if I was going to describe Greg, it's just that he was just a kind man, and he never inflicted. I just feel like he never inflicted just negativity or pain on anybody. We have 2 small kids, and where his home was, there was lots of kids around him, and he didn't mind if anyone came, and they messed, little kids mess with his stuff, and he was just always very kind, and he'd always say, your babies are beautiful, and he said, my babies are, you were still his babies to him, and he loved you very much. And we loved Greg too. And we're just really thankful we got a chance to know him and be near him. And we just pray that he knew Jesus and that he's in heaven and that he just is wherever he is, that he is at peace because he deserved to have peace.
Anyone else? All right. You want to go, Zach? Yep.
If you haven't figured out already, I'm Greg's son, Zach. I'd be surprised if you didn't know that. Also currently the #1 Greg Bartley impersonator now. We were always compared to each other. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But sometimes the apple is still hanging to the tree. And sometimes it falls off too early. Greg was a very complicated man, and I got to experience that firsthand. Despite all of his human flaws that just like we all have, he had a very deep kindness to him that everyone could see when they truly got to know him and understand him. In 2017, he got really into the show, The Sopranos, and he really fancied himself to be Tony Soprano, which, to anyone that knows my dad, that's absolutely ridiculous. But in the same way, they did have a lot of similarities. And the biggest similarity I could see in them was from the first episode, where Tony has his ducks that he feeds in the pool, and the moment when those ducks grew up and flew away was when he truly had to take a look at himself and deal with his problems. And in many ways, my father had many experiences like that. And I mean, he didn't have ducks. He had cats that lived in the barn next to him. And every time I talked to him, he would tell me about taking care of these cats. So I'm so glad he had new cats to take care of after we moved out. And those cats eventually left. They were taken back by their owner, and that was the first time I had seen him really sad in a while. He loved animals, and he passed that on to me, and that kindness was what he treated every living being with, not just animals, not just those that couldn't talk. And obviously there's a lot of questions left with the passing of my father, and I probably have the most out of all of you, of course. But if I could pass on at least one answer to you guys, suicide is a scary reality, and it's not a reality we worry about for ourselves, but for those around us. And we don't know who's going through it, because we can only know what each individual person, ourselves, is thinking. And so I encourage all of you, if you are dealing with something, mental health is just as important as physical health. And we need to be unafraid to share how we feel with those we love, and truly reach out through the scary divide of one person to another, and share how we feel, and listen to those when they share with you. Many of you did that for my father, and I'm very thankful for that. And ultimately, he made his own choice, and I accept that. The summer before I turned 21, I also was dealing with very serious problems, just like he did. But I decided to take a scary step and ask for help. And I did. And I got help. And I don't deal with those problems anymore. And I could have only wished that he was able to do the same thing, but not everyone is able to do that. And so we need to live with this memory as a reminder of how to live our lives and how to treat others. That's all I got. I ran out of things to say, so thank you guys for being here, and love all of you. So thank you. Do you want it back? All right.
Anybody want to follow Zach? No, you'll pass. All right. I really appreciate the vulnerability and sharing, and I appreciate everybody's words. I have just a couple of thoughts as we wrap up, and there's some cookies and some refreshments. We really want you to look at pictures and share some more stories. Maybe you weren't comfortable sharing them in this crowd. We can definitely share them a little bit. But I think today we've been reminded ghastly that life has an expiration date. And the truth is that all of us, if we're really honest, we should recognize how brief life is. And I'm not going to preach a sermon or anything. One of the things Zach said is, we don't need it to be too religious, right? And I'm like, I like that. We can roll with that, right? But I'm a pastor, right? You're in a church, and so here we are. So one short verse, all right? But anyway, Psalm 39 says this: Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered and how fleeting my life is. You have made my life no longer than the width of my hand. My entire lifetime is just a moment to you. At best, each of us is just a breath. And King David wasn't the only person in the Bible who asked this question. A guy named Job and a guy named James, they were all asking this question. God, tell us the length of our life. Tell us how long that we are going to be alive. And I think what we've come to think, or at least how we've been wired to think, is that we're invincible. And we act like we're going to get to our expiration date, and we're just going to be able to keep pushing farther and farther and get past it. Silly statistic, but as of 2018, the average American will live 78.54 years, right? 151,000 people die every single day in the world. 6,300 die every hour. And I just know we can't escape it. We just can't. And I love David, who says, hey, I want to know. I want to know how many days I've got left. Woody Allen said about death, he said, it's not that I'm afraid to die, I just don't want to be there when it happens, right? And you see, no matter how confident we are, regardless of how talented we are, or what our success is, we face limitation when it comes to death. It's undeniable, it's inevitable, and we spend hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars to avoid it, but can't escape it. And so I think I want to challenge all of you here as friends and family to Greg that we have some things we can do. And my first suggestion is this: let's turn my when into now, right? We say that. When such and such happens, then I will do whatever. Well, if you're like me, then you'll say, when such and such happens, then life will really matter. And one day when everything is just the way I want it to be or how I think it should be, I'll do such and such. And I don't know how it'll play out with you, but I've talked to so many people with a lot of different whens and thens. And one day and someday, then we'll do whatever. And I just want to challenge us today that the word someday sometimes means never. And so let's turn our whens into now. If you're waiting for something to happen, when such and such happens, you'll do whatever. How about you don't wait? How about you just do it now? And so I don't know what burden of someday you might be carrying today, but my encouragement to you is look at your life and decide to do it now. And so similar to the first one, the second one is this: turn our intentions into actions. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of good intentions. Anybody else have good intentions? Yeah, we have good intentions, right? And we've got some really seriously good intentions about life, and we haven't gotten around to getting them done yet. And so we're good people with a lot of good intentions with a little follow through. We need to stop letting the good go undone. And let's do the good, right? We need to forgive. We need to help when we can help. We need to be with people who are alone. Let's do it. If we've got good intentions, let's increase our follow through and let's get it done. And then I think last is let's leave a legacy. Leave a legacy. What would the generation to come after you say about you based on the way you lived your life today? And I think that's an important question for all of us to ask. How would we live different? I like to tell people that there is always a meeting, because there is. As a pastor, I get to do these kind of things often. And there's always a meeting, and you can't be at the meeting, But everybody gathered at the meeting is there because of you, and they're going to talk about you. And you can't do anything about what they say. And so what would you want them to say? How would you want them to communicate what was important to you and what life was like for you? In reality, no one can preach their own funeral because we preach our funerals while we live. And so I know this to be true. Although Greg is gone, there will be memories that last. And especially for Zach and Haley, there will be things that happen. And all of a sudden, they'll find sadness because something will remind them of something. There'll be days and moments in their future when Greg will be remembered. And for many of you, especially family and friends who knew him, you know that his memories will continue. And so I think one of the things that we can do together is just acknowledge what's maybe a couple of those really good traits, characteristics that Greg possessed. And for him to have a legacy, maybe we decide today, there's this thing that he did, or there's this thing he said, or there's this particular trait that he had, and I heard some of it. I heard it. He was good, I think you said. He was just good to the kids, and like you heard that. So what trait can we take, and what trait can we carry on in honor, in memory of Greg, so that his legacy will be a legacy and not just a memory? And so those are some of my words for you. I hope I can encourage you. I think if you looked at the brochure, Zach was very clear. Man, if you're struggling with suicide or suicide thoughts, man, please reach out, get help. Get help. I think sometimes when we're so alone, we don't recognize how alone we are. And in our loneliness, we assume that nobody will care. You've proved Greg wrong today. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you're here to share in some of those memories. And I hope that you'll share some more stories as we enjoy some cookies and coffee, and that you'll love on Zach and Haley. Just remember, too much loving can be annoying, all right? So, but love on them and encourage them and commit to being with them as they journey. Let me pray for us and we'll dismiss. God, thank you for Greg's life. God, we especially appreciate the fact that from Greg and Julie came Zach and Haley, and they are precious and special. And so, God, I just pray that you would surround them with your presence today, and that they would be reminded of how much they are loved. And that as family and friends gather this afternoon, they are reminded that they're not alone, that family and friends are on this journey with them. And Father, we want to remember Greg, and we want to remember some of the great things about him, and we want to instill those things and emulate those things in our own lives. And so I just pray that as we depart from this room and celebrate in a celebration kind of way with a reception, that stories can be shared and memories can be shared and those characteristic traits can be shared, so that we could leave today maybe emulating something of Greg. We thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen. And so just out in the foyer, some cookies and some refreshments and pictures. Take a look and enjoy the time.
Since those summer days among the fields of barley, see the children run as the sun goes down among the fields of gold. You'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in